The wild ride of Red Bull from Tonic to global empire. Imagine a sweltering day in 1980s Thailand. The air's thick, the markets are buzzing with vendors shouting over the roar of tuk-tuks, and a jet-lagged Austrian businessman, Dietrich Mateschitz, slumps in a roadside. His suit's sticking to him, his eyes are heavy, and his mind's a fog from crossing time zones. A local slides a small amber-colored bottle across the table, Krating Daeng, a gritty tonic for Thailand's workers. It's nothing special to look at, but when Dietrich takes a sip, it's like a lightning bolt. His fatigue vanishes, his senses snap to life, and a wild idea takes hold. That single sip isn't just a pick-me-up, tease the spark of a revolution. A revolution that battles bans, skeptics, and near financial ruin, yet soars to send a man to the edge of space, builds Formula One dynasties, and transforms a humble Thai drink into a global phenomenon. This is the story of Red Bull, a gritty, heart-pounding saga of dreamers fighting impossible odds to give the world wings. Grab a drink, settle in, and let's take this wild ride together. Welcome to the Crani-Yum Nootropic Energy Drink channel. Check the link in the description to check out our Nootropic Energy Drink. If you're here for epic stories of triumph, jaw-dropping stunts, or just want to know how a drink became a way of life, you're in the right place. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's dive into the untamed tale of Red Bull. Act 1. The Spark in Thailand. It's 1976, and Thailand's streets pulse with life. Markets overflow with spices and chatter, workers toil under a relentless sun, and the air hums with the grind of a nation on the move. Our first hero is Khalil Uvidya, a man who knows adversity like an old friend. Born in 1923 to a poor Thai Chinese family, Khalil grew up in rural Thailand where opportunities were scarce. His parents raised ducks to survive, and young Khalil worked odd jobs selling goods, running errands before landing a gig as an antibiotic salesman. He's no corporate tycoon, just a hustler with a sharp mind and a pharmacist's knack for formulas. By the 1970s, he's running a small company, TC Pharmaceuticals, but he's haunted by a problem. Thailand's working class is exhausted. Truck drivers haul goods through the night, farmers labor from dawn to dusk, factory workers push through 12-hour shifts, coffee's not enough, and traditional remedies are too weak for their grueling lives. Khalil faces his first big hurdle, creating a drink that can compete in a market dominated by herbal tonics and cheap coffee. He's got no fancy lab, no team of scientists, just a small pharmacy and a relentless drive. Nights turn in 2 weeks as he experiments, blending caffeine, taurine amino acid he'd studied in pharmaceuticals, and B vitamins. The result is Krating Daeng, or red gour, named after a massive horned bovine that roams Southeast Asia. It's syrupy, non-carbonated, and packs a punch like a mule kick. It's not pretty, but it works. By the late 70s, truckers are chugging it to stay awake on marathon drives. Factory workers sip it to power through the heat. Krating Daeng becomes a lifeline for Thailand's unsung heroes, but Khalil hits a wall. It's a local hit, earning modest profits, but the idea of going global, that's a pipe dream. Thailand's economy is small, export markets are cutthroat, and Khalil's a nobody outside his homeland. Fast forward to 1982, Dietrich Mateschitz, a 40-year-old Austrian marketing exec for Blendax toothpaste, steps into the story. He's in Bangkok, battling a beast of his own, jet lag that's crushing him like a freight train. Meetings drag on, his focus fades, and he's desperate for anything to keep him sharp. A Thai colleague hands him a bottle of Krating Daeng. Dietrich's skeptical. It looks like something you'd find in a back alley shop, not a boardroom. But one sip changes everything. The fog lifts, his energy surges, and his marketer's brain lights up. This isn't just a drink, it's a goldmine. He sees a gap in the Western market where nothing exists to rival coffee or soda for energy. But convincing Khalil to partner with a foreigner is no walk in the park. Khalil's built a steady business. Why risk it on a Western market he doesn't understand? Dietrich flies to Thailand repeatedly, sitting through long meetings, navigating cultural and language barriers. His persistence, born of countless rejections in his marketing career, wins Khalil over. In 1984, they strike a deal, $500,000 each, 49 minus 49 ownership, with 2% to Khalil's son, Chalerm, as a tiebreaker. The real adversity hits when Dietrich tries to adapt Krating Daeng for the West. The syrupy formula is a hard sell. Early taste tests in Austria are brutal, with feedback like too sweet or tastes like cough syrup. Dietrich's no chemist, and reformulating the drink is a slog. He spends 3 years tweaking it, adding carbonation, balancing flavors, and designing a sleek silver and blue can. The logo, two Red Bulls charging a golden sun, is crafted by his friend Johannes Kastner, but even that faces pushback. Focus groups call it too aggressive or too niche. Investors warn Dietrich he's throwing away his life savings on a fad. His colleagues at Blendax think he's lost his mind, risking a stable career on a weird Thai drink. Worse, banks refuse to loan him money, forcing him to scrape together funds from personal contacts. Dietrich's staring down financial ruin, but he pushes through, driven by a vision that Red Bull isn't just a drink, it's a spark for the bold, the restless, the dreamers. Act 2. The birth of a category. On April 1, 1987, Red Bull launches in Austria, and it's a gamble that nearly buries Dietrich. Energy drinks don't exist yet. Soda, coffee, and juice rule the market, and consumers are baffled. Is this a medicine? A soda? What's the deal? Retailers are just as confused, unsure where to stock it. With a tiny budget, Dietrich can't afford TV ads or billboards like Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Critics call Red Bull a gimmick destined to flop. Early sales are dismal, and distributors hesitate, leaving cans gathering dust on shelves. Dietrich's $500,000 investment is dwindling, and he's burning through cash to keep the company alive. Friends warn him to cut his losses, but he doubles down, working 18-hour days to pitch Red Bull to anyone who'll listen. His solution is scrappy and brilliant. The Red Bull Wings team, college students drive branded trucks, handing out free cans at universities, ski slopes, and nightclubs. They're not just distributors, they're evangelists, hyping up Red Bull's energy to students cramming for exams or skiers chasing thrills. But even this isn't enough. Bar owners reject Red Bull, saying it doesn't fit their vibe. Store managers refuse to reorder, citing low demand. Dietrich's team faces constant rejection, pounding the pavement to convince retailers to give it a shot. The company teeters on the edge of bankruptcy, with Dietrich personally guaranteeing loans to keep it afloat. Then comes a bigger blow, regulatory bans, as Red Bull expands to Hungary 1992, Germany 1994, and the UK 1995. Countries like France, Denmark, and Norway ban it outright. Regulators question the safety of caffeine. 80 milligrams per 8.4 ounces can, equivalent to a cup of coffee, and taurine, an amino acid critics claim without evidence could harm the heart or nervous system. France's ban, starting in 1996, locks Red Bull out of a major market for 12 years. Denmark and Norway follow, citing insufficient safety data. These aren't just bureaucratic hurdles, they're existential threats. Each ban costs millions in lost revenue and forces Dietrich to fund costly scientific studies to prove Red Bull's safe. He hires researchers, attends regulatory hearings, and battles negative headlines painting Red Bull as dangerous. The pressure takes a toll. Insiders later say Dietrich's health suffered, with stress-induced sleepless nights becoming his norm. Despite the bans, Dietrich crafts a myth around Red Bull. It's not for the average Joe, it's for the bold, the night owls, the risk takers. The slogan "Red Bull gives you wings," coined in the late 80s, becomes a battle cry, but the adversity doesn't end. In 1997, Red Bull hits the U.S., targeting California's college students. Sales surge, but so does controversy. Bull vodka craze explodes, with bars mixing the drink into a party staple. Health advocates sound alarms, warning that combining caffeine with alcohol could mask intoxication, leading to risky behavior. Media outlets run sensational stories, like energy drinks, the new danger. Dietrich's team faces a PR nightmare, issuing statements to clarify Red Bull's safety while fending off calls for U.S. bans. By 2000, Red Bull's in 50 countries, selling millions of cans, but each market brings new fights, new regulators, new critics, new skeptics. Dietrich's not just building a brand, he's fighting a war on multiple fronts. Act 3. The Adrenaline Empire. By the late 90s, Dietrich's tired of playing by advertising's rules. TV ads are expensive and forgettable, so he pivots to something radical, creating events that embody Red Bull's spirit. But this is no easy feat. Launching the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series in 1999 means finding athletes willing to leap from 90 foot cliffs into churning waters, a sport so niche it barely exists. Early events draw tiny crowds, and critics call them reckless, accusing Red Bull of endangering lives. Safety regulations are a nightmare, with local governments demanding costly permits and insurance. Red Bull Air Race, launched in 2003, is even tougher. Pilots weave through inflatable gates at 230 miles per hour, but aviation authorities impose strict airspace rules, delaying events and driving up costs. Red Bull Crashed Ice. A high-speed ice skating gauntlet faces logistical chaos. Building massive ice tracks in city centers costs millions, and one bad winter can melt the whole operation. Each event is a high-stakes bet, with Red Bull sinking cash into unproven concepts while critics predict failure. The biggest gamble comes in 2005, when Red Bull buys a failing Formula One team, Minardi, for $1. The racing world scoffs energy drinks in F1's elite circle. It's absurd. The team's a wreck, with outdated cars, a demoralized crew, and no wins in decades. Dietrich faces a barrage of adversity. Pundits call it a publicity stunt, sponsors hesitate to back a drinks company, and early seasons are brutal, with crashes and mechanical failures piling up. He pours tens of millions into Red Bull racing, hiring top engineers like Adrian Newey and a young driver named Sebastian Vettel. The pressure's crushing, every loss fuels the Narrative that Red Bull doesn't belong. By 2010, the tide turns, Red Bull Racing wins the Constructors' Championship, and Vettel takes the driver's title. By 2025, Max Verstappen's for championships make Red Bull a powerhouse, valued at $3.5 billion. But the journey was a gauntlet of doubt, debt, and relentless scrutiny. The ultimate test arrives on October 14, 2012, with Red Bull Stratos. Felix Baumgartner, an Austrian skydiver, aims to free fall from 24 miles above Earth, breaking the sound barrier. The $65 million project is a logistical beast, a custom capsule, a team of NASA scientists, and a balloon the size of a football field. Adversity piles up. Technical glitches delay the launch 5 times, high winds nearly scrap it, and Baumgartner battles severe claustrophobia in his pressurized suit, nearly pulling out. The world watches live, 8 million streaming on YouTube as he steps into the void. A single miscalculation could be fatal, and Red Bull's reputation hangs in the balance. When Baumgartner lands safely, breaking 3 world records: highest manned balloon flight, fastest free fall, first human to break the sound barrier without a vehicle, it's a triumph over impossible odds. Red Bull's not just selling drinks, it's selling Red Bull Media House, launched in 2007, faces its own battles. Producing documentaries, viral videos, and music through Red Bull Records means competing with Hollywood studios and major labels. Early projects flop, and critics dismiss Red Bull's content as glorified commercials. The team pushes through, learning on the fly. And by 2024, they're a media powerhouse, with films like The Art of Flight and events like Red Bull Rampage drawing millions of views. Red Bull sold 12.6 billion cans across 178 countries, generating 11.2 billion euros, with a 43% market share. But every step was a fight against doubt, red tape, and naysayers. Act 4. Evolution and Impact. Red Bull doesn't rest. As the energy drink market explodes, they innovate to stay ahead, but each step brings new challenges. In 2003, they launched Red Bull Sugar Free, targeting health-conscious consumers. Early versions miss the mark. Fans complain it lacks the original's punch. Reformulating costs millions and risks alienating loyal customers. In 2012, Red Bull Total Zero cuts sugar and carbs entirely, but taste tests spark backlash, with some calling it watered down. By 2018, Red Bull Zero nails the balance, but getting there means years of trial and error. Launching Organics by Red Bull into 018, a line of organic sodas like ginger ale and cola, is another gamble. The soda market's dominated by giants like Coke, and Red Bull's a newbie. Early sales are slow, and critics question why an energy drink brand is dabbling in hipster sodas. Red Bull's global expansion faces cultural hurdles. In Japan, they sponsor sumo wrestlers, but traditionalists argue it's a clash with the sport's heritage. In Brazil, backing football stars draws scrutiny from fans who see it as commercialization. Red Bull adapts, offering non-carbonated versions in Asia and tropical flavors in Latin America, but each market demands costly research and customization. Sustainability is another battle. By 2025, Red Bull's pushing for 100% recyclable cans and renewable energy in factories, but the transition's expensive, and supply chain disruptions, especially during the 2020 pandemic, threaten progress. Critics accuse them of greenwashing, forcing Red Bull to double down with transparent reports. The brand's impact is undeniable, but it's forged through adversity. Red Bull changes how we see energy. It's not just caffeine. It's a lifestyle. Athletes like Max Verstappen, who downs a can before F1 races, or mountain biker Dani McCaskill, who sips one before a death-defying stunt, make Red Bull a ritual. Triathlete Lucy Charles Barclay credits it for her endurance, and rugby star Jack Noel drinks 2 cans on match day, one before warm-up, one at halftime. But the spotlight brings heat. Health advocates warn against overconsumption, especially for teens. The 80 milligrams of caffeine per can matches a coffee, but media stories amplify fears, linking energy drinks to heart issues despite studies showing no direct causation in moderation. Taurine remains a lightning rod, with myths about bull sperm, forcing Red Bull to launch PR campaigns clarifying it's a synthetic amino acid. The bans keep coming. France's embargo lasts until 2008, costing Red Bull millions. Canada delays approval until 2004, and Kuwait bans it in 2002 over health concerns. Each fight requires legal battles, scientific studies, and public lobbying. Red Bull's transparency, listing ingredients clearly, funding research wins over regulators, but the process is grueling. By 2025, they've overcome most bans, but the shadow of scrutiny lingers, with health groups calling for stricter age limits. Red Bull fights back with education campaigns, urging responsible use, but the narrative of danger never fully fades. Act 5. The Legacy and Future. Red Bull's story is a testament to beating the odds. Kaleo who passed in 2012, turned a small-town dream into a $20 billion legacy, making his family one of Asia's richest. Dietrich Mateschitz, who stepped back in 2022 and passed shortly after, faced down bankruptcy, bans, and ridicule to build a brand that's more than a drink, it's a symbol of courage. By 2025, Red Bull's in 178 countries, employs nearly 20,000 people, and sells billions of cans a year. But every milestone was a battle, from Chelio's early struggles to Dietrich's regulatory wars to the high-stakes risks of Stratos and F1. What's next? Red Bull's eyeing new frontiers, but they won't be easy. Virtual reality events could let fans experience cliff diving or racing, but tech glitches and high costs loom. Eco-friendly formulas like plant-based energy drinks face skeptical consumers, and complex R&D new events like Red Bull Dance Your Style push into street culture. But competing with established music and dance scenes is tough. Whatever Red Bull does, it'll face resistance, regulators, rivals, or doubters. But if history's any guide, they'll keep fighting, keep soaring, and keep giving wings to those who dare to dream big. In closing, that's the story of Red Bull, a wild, heart-pounding ride from a Tonic to a global empire built on the backs of dreamers who refuse to quit. What do you think? Could you have faced the bans, the skeptics, the near bankruptcies to make Red Bull soar? Are you Team Red Bull, or do you have another favorite energy drink? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's keep this conversation alive. If you love this deep dive, give us a big thumbs up and share it with your crew. Want more stories of grit and glory? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. If you want to check out our Nootropic Energy Crani-Yum, please check the link in the description. Until next time, keep chasing your wings. This is the Crani-Yum Nootropic Energy Drink YouTube channel, signing off.